Good morning and a warm welcome to SNS. I am Ilinka Benson, CEO here, and I have the pleasure to introduce today's seminar, during which we will discuss the European Union's fight against organized crime. This seminar is organized within our research project, Crime and Society, which is led by Research Director Louise Lorentzon, with the help of Project Manager Emily Lekebjerg. And it focuses on how we can combat crime that has a severe impact on society. I would like to especially give a warm welcome to our speakers, Madam Ambassador Cristina Latorre Sancho, Ambassador of Spain to Sweden, Johan Olsson, Head of National Operations Division NOA at the Swedish Police Authority, and the EU-kommissionär for Home Affairs, Ylva Johansson, who will join us digitally here soon. And with those words, I would simply like to hand over the scene and the floor to Annika Ström Melin, our excellent moderator and journalist. We are very grateful to have you here to guide us through this seminar. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ilinka, and thank you for entrusting me the task to moderate this very interesting seminar concerning the fight against organized crime in the EU. And we are so happy that Ylva Johansson, EU Commissioner for Home Affairs, can be with us online from Brussels. She will soon give us some introductory remarks. And after her contribution, I will invite our two other speakers, Spain's ambassador to Sweden, Cristina Latorre Sancho, and Johan Olsson, Head of National Operations Department at the Swedish Police Authority. You are both so very welcome. And you will take part in a panel discussion with the Commissioner about the increased challenge from organized crime in the EU. And I hope that you all, listeners here at Jakobsbergsgatan in Stockholm and followers online, would like to take part in the discussion. Just raise your hand or write something on the online chat, and we will give you the floor. One thing is that Ylva Johansson has to leave this discussion at 11:15. She has other engagements. And the discussion will therefore, after she leaves, will focus on the bilateral, very interesting cooperation between Spain and Sweden in the fight against organized crime. And we will close this seminar at 11:15. So we are now very eager to listen to Ylva Johansson. So please, Commissioner, I hope that we can leave the digital floor to you very soon. We don't see you yet, but the connections to Brussels is coming. And I hope that we will soon see your face on the screen here at Jakobsbergsgatan. It can take some seconds, but sooner or later, we will be happy to welcome you to this seminar about the fight against organized crime in the EU. And as Home Commissioner, you are working with these questions every day. And for us all, it's a very urgent topic, perhaps especially here in this town in Stockholm, where, as we all know, shootings is happening almost every week. And we are, of course, very interested to hear what the cooperation in the EU can do to boost the fight against organized crime in the Union and in Sweden. Welcome, Ylva Johansson.
So thank you very much. And I think this is a very interesting seminar, I must say. We see, well, I think I will focus on what actually could the EU do. Because we are, and there's a lot of things, of course, national polices are the most important players here when it comes to fight organized crime. But when we see how the organized criminal groups are developing, we can see that they are increasingly international. They are a huge majority of the organized criminal groups active in the European Union are active in at least 3 countries. So they are increasingly international. They are increasingly violent, and the violence is getting worse and worse. And they are increasingly professional. They are organized like multinational businesses, more or less. And they are also increasingly online. I will come back to the online component. And that means that we have an important role here and in the EU to make it possible for national police to be successful. We have to facilitate the police cooperation, both inside European Union, but also with agreements with third countries that we can do via Europol, for example. So what we can do on the European Union level is to facilitate this police cooperation. And that means, sometimes it means that we need common legislation so that it's easier to have the same kind of what is criminalized in one country should be criminalized in another country. For example, to have legislation for e-evidence. So it's easy to get access to evidence that is hosted on a server in another country, for example. But also for the quick exchange of information. We have now a proposal on the table called PRIM 2, where we will make it much quicker and easier for example, if you have a fingerprint or a face image in one police, they can immediately check whether this fingerprint or a face image or number plate is present anywhere else in any other police register in the European Union. And that will help to find out how the patterns are when you investigate these kind of crimes. Other things that we can do and must do on the European level is, of course, via Europol. Europol is an extremely important player here. Europol is not a federal police. Europol is not operational, but Europol plays an extremely important role by facilitating the cooperation, but also sometimes inviting all member states together, for example, with third countries for FBI, for example, but also together with sometimes with companies to do joint action days where they are very successful, I must say. Europol can also help and support the investigations via their expertise, of course, but also by using artificial intelligence, by helping. We saw this with this big Encrochat case, for example, where also Europol can help when we have these big investigations. Another part that is important for the European level is everything that is online. Because regulating the internet companies is almost impossible to do on a national level. It is possible to do on the EU level. And to give you one example, the heinous crime, child sexual violence against children, child sexual abuse. It's a heinous crime, but it's unfortunately also a very common crime. It's estimated by the Council of Europe that 1 child out of 5 is a victim of child sexual abuse during their childhood. There was a recent study in Sweden where the figures went up to 28%, up from 20% 6 years earlier. So nobody knows exactly the figures. Other studies says 15%, but it's very common that children are victims of sexual abuse. And this goes on very often in the dark, very often by a person close to the child. And very often the first lead that could help the police to start an investigation is when they share these videos and photos online of the crime. This is the most common way for police to start an investigation in the European Union. So this is the most important way to actually find the child, to rescue the child, and to prosecute the perpetrator. This goes because internet companies report when they see child sexual abuse activities or pictures and videos online. They've been doing this scanning of private communication and other areas for more than 10 years. Last year in the EU, we got 1.5 million reports of child sexual abuse online. 70% came from private communication, 20% from chats and social media, and 10% from open areas. And this contains 5.2 million videos and pictures and grooming activities. And now I made a proposal that this scanning for child sex abuse material should be able to continue. If my proposal is not accepted, it will be forbidden in the European Union. And that will mean that we will have 0 reports from the internet companies. And that will terribly actually hamper all of the police work to go after these perpetrators. What we also can do, so this is an area where we can do both very bad on the European Union, because if we forbid the scanning, then we will go totally blind, I should say, and the EU will be a safe haven for the perpetrators, because the scanning will go on outside the EU. But also if we have a good regulation, so that all companies are obliged to help us to find these crimes and to rescue the children, and that companies are obliged to make reports that are of higher quality than the reports that we get today, so that this could really help the police, then we can really make a difference for these children, for the safety of these children. So this is also a good example of where we can really make a difference on the European level. So I think that there's a lot of crimes going on where the EU is not so present, I must say. But when it comes to organized crimes, this is almost always international. When it comes to everything that have an online component, then the EU can make a huge difference. We have stepped up our efforts. We are giving a new mandate to Europol, new resources. We have new legislation in place. I have on the table now also new legislation soon when it comes to anti-corruption, for example, which is of course also a very important crime. The organized criminal groups in the European Union are very present in corruption. 60% of them are engaged in corruption. 80% of them are engaged in the legal economy. They are running companies. And that means that they are poisoning our society, really. So this is also areas where it's extremely important to have an international and European cooperation to fight on these in this aspect towards the organized criminal groups.
Okay, thank you so much, Ylva Johansson. I'm sorry we can't see you, but we heard you very well. Just one question to you. You highlighted the challenge from increased sexual abuse. Oh, there you are. Hi, Ylva. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Well, I have one question since you highlighted your proposal concerning child abuse online. And as we all know, this proposal is being negotiated at the moment in the Council and in the Parliament. And there has been numerous human rights groups voicing some concern and critics towards your proposal. I just wonder, this to strike the right balance between fight against crime and protection of every individual's right to integrity is, of course, difficult every time. But would you say that there is room for improvement concerning this to protect the individual against too much of a scanning when the negotiation about your proposal is ongoing now?
Well, I should say that we have found a good balance in the offline world between privacy and security. And it's now time to find this balance on the online world. So we have to take into account also the privacy of these children. Those are being groomed, for example, that are being forced or paid to do sexual penetrations by of themselves in front of the camera, a 10-year-old girl, and see these pictures going live on internet. I mean, the privacy of these children is also important. The worst moments of their lives are being shared for pleasure. So this is the balance to be found. And I think really we have found this balance in my proposal. So I'm restricting the scanning compared to what is allowed today, but I don't stop it totally. And you can compare it, for example, that if you have a post office and you let in a police dog to sniff the parcels for drugs. The dog will sniff all parcels but only when the dog says, here's the cocaine, then you can do something with that parcel. And that doesn't mean that anybody have opened all parcels or read all messages. So the technique is the same here. The technology is like a sniffing dog. They say, is it child sexual abuse material or not? Not reading, not going into everything, but just finding the right content that need to be reported. Otherwise, we will go blind and these children will be left in the dark.
Thank you so much, Ylva Johansson. Let's continue the discussion with our two guests here in Stockholm. Johan Olsson and Cristina Latorre Sancho, please join me on the stage. And Cristina, do you have any comments to this proposal from Ylva Johansson concerning the fight against sexual abuses on children online? What is the government in Madrid's position in this question? Please, Cristina.
Yes, we are in favor of Spain is supporting this proposal. Yes, there are some countries that are putting some inconveniences regarding the communications intervention. But I think Spain is much in favor, and we hope that can be close the general opinion during the Swedish presidency, and the Ministry of Justice is really trying to help and to push this initiative. Yes.
So in your view, in the view of Spain's government, the protection for the individual's right to personal integrity is secured in the proposal, as Ylva Johansson said. There are some regulations concerning this. So you are not afraid that this will be a threat towards the fundamental right to have personal integrity?
I suppose they will. I'm going to check exactly, because as you know, I'm not dealing exactly with this kind of
no.
matters.
You can check, Cristina,
yes,
and perhaps we can come.
But I think what I was saying, that yes, there are some countries that are opposed. I've seen which countries are putting the more inconvenience, and Spain is not among them. So I can say that yes, we are not on those who are opposing.
The Swedish government also behind this proposal, but the discussion is ongoing. So we'll see how it ends. Johan Olsson, Ylva Johansson started by highlighting the fact that Europol is it's not a supranational institution in the EU, but it's a very effective organization for cooperation between police authorities in the European Union. What is your view on the cooperation? Is it doing well in the fight against organized crime in your perspective?
Absolutely. Europol is doing incredibly well, and given the very small resources, we are very happy that they will receive increasing funding. They make a real difference to the fight against organized crime. Organized crime is increasingly the main challenge for the Swedish police as well. And the name of the game in terms of combating organized crime is information flow, increase the amount of information sharing, and also the ability to convert those information or that data into different operational tasks. And Europol is very important in all of these aspects. It's provide the very basis, which means that police in Europe, not only the police, but also customs inside Europe, but also third countries can communicate safely. That is the very baseline, which is provided by Europol. Europol is also providing a possibility for us to share information between countries and use that large amount of data which we now have. We saw that, of course, with EncroChat and Sky and in these operations, but there are many others. Europol is also increasingly important in terms of research and development when it comes to law enforcement, and also a very important arena for us to discuss different effects of technological changes and advantage. So I would say that Europol is extremely important and given its size, very, very efficient.
what did you say? I mean, encrypted information. We all know that criminal groups use these channels for encrypted information. And we also know that thanks to national police in France, Sweden got access to information, which was very important for the fight against organized crime in our country. What did you say? What is the role of Europol in this area?
Well, this is a good example because it sounds quite easy that a national police force do something and it's all kind of happens magically. But what is needed is, first of all, for many different countries, not all of the countries of Europe, but quite a few, to actually meet and share that data, to handle that data in a way that it's secure, safe, but also efficient. And Europol provided that platform. Then there's a lot of work to do nationally as well to have that data converted into actually investigations that we take to prosecutions and convictions in court. And without Europol, both as a mechanism for us to meet and also for handling data, those kind of operations would not be possible.
Cristina, in your view, what is the role of Europol in this fight against organized crime?
I think you can distinguish if you have a very good bilateral cooperation with a country, with one of their member states, then Europol can add, but it's not, it's value, but it's not, you reach better results with your bilateral. But if it is, if you don't have much cooperation or you really need some cooperation that deals with more than one country, then it's very useful because it's a center where all of them are together. So it's really national policemen that have been appointed there. So they are really door by door. So you can really open the door and check with the others. So that's very good. Above all, those countries that are from an operative point of view, not so closed. So I think it's useful. It's
Interesting.
Useful.
Ylva Johansson, everyone seems to agree that Europol is a success story in that sense. So, but it's a pretty small institution. Isn't that room for a more strengthened role for the Europol, since we are in this situation with increased challenge from organized crime?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And we are just given Europol a new mandate and new resources. So they are growing and they have more bigger mandate. So this is really important that they have this. I would like to highlight one important thing, and that is really the ability to process big amount of data. And that has been something that's been discussed and sometimes criticized by the European data protection authorities. But this is extremely important, that Europol can support the national investigations or the joint investigations when it comes to this aspect. And I should say the use of artificial intelligence is equally important. These are the kind of technologies and capabilities that not all member states can have them themselves. So that's where Europol can really support. And can I also say this, but also it makes it important when it comes to financing. We see more and more cryptocurrency. We see new models operandi on how money is being is flowing. And this is also very important and extremely quick part. And you have to be as quick as they are. And that's why really, so I should say Europol need resources, but it's equally important with the mandate, so that they're allowed to use all the capabilities that they could have to support the national police in their investigations. And this is growing very quick, I should say, especially for the online component.
I would like to encourage the audience here. We have one question online. Please, Emily, you are watching. Can you tell us?
Yes, thank you, Annika. We have a question from Monica Getz Löfmark from SIEPS, that is the Swedish Institute for European Policy Studies. And this question is to you, Johan Olsson. Here goes. Why is it difficult to use Europol data in national investigations?
It's not by meaning that it is difficult. It's but it is very important that Europol facilitates big data, so it can be used in many different countries. But there are, of course, challenges in terms of reaching frontline officers with all the data that Europol provides and so forth. But in general, I would say that Europol has done a lot to increase the information flow.
But Johan, I mean, this is the area where we know that there are conflicting interests. And we know that the European Court of Justice has in several cases said that the formal regulation concerning data retention, storage of data, should be restricted. So what is your view? I mean, Ylva Johansson say the mandate for Europol should be stronger in this area. But then again, there is the Court of Justice and the rules concerning personal integrity. How is this working together in your view?
I think, I mean, there are political issues at the heart of this. There is a balance between society's ability to protect victims of crime and also the integrity of all of us. So that is ultimately a political question, where that balance is to be struck. But from our perspective, I think it's very important also that we talk about and think about this in terms of the new technology that is developing. The data is becoming very, very large. And if we don't have tools to handle, or the rules that allow us to handle big data, we will not be able to be effective in the communications domain, which is absolutely central to organized crime. So I think what we try to do is also try to, in different cases or environments, explain what are actually the consequences in terms of law enforcement, in terms of different rules and legislations, and then it's up to the political domain to decide. But there is also, I think, a long-term perspective. There is a sense that we have lost abilities that we once had. You mentioned data retention, the possibility to have anonymous connections. It used to be the case that if a police authority had a suspicion of an individual committing a crime and there was a court decision, we could intercept that communication. That has been increasingly difficult to do because of the technological developments. So from our perspective, it's also important not only to look at the legislation, but also make it quite more neutral in terms of technology. The technology is changing very rapidly, and organized crime groups are extremely good at taking advantage of these developments.
Cristina, please, what's your view on this difficult balance?
Yes, what I think is very important is not to leave this dossier only in the hands of the police, the law enforcement agency. We have the judiciary and the public prosecutors. In my country, for instance, the investigation is followed by we call the juez de instrucción, instruction judge. It's like we have the public prosecutor, but he's the one who is saying, so if you want to intercept the communication, you need the authorization of this judge, who is not the judge who is going to put the sentence. We have two different judges. But I think it's very important that the public prosecutor, if it's the figure here, or the judge who is doing the instruction or following the instructions, plays a role and allows the interventions, interceptions, the computers taking and everything. I think that's what help us. It's like a tool to help us to find this balance.
Ylva Johansson, you also highlighted the corruption as one big route for the criminals groups, and that they can use methods to get into the legal system in different countries and so on. We have now a new EU institution, European Prosecutor's Office. Would you say what is the role of EPPO in the fight against corruption in the European Union?
Well, yes, EPPO is important, but EPPO's mandate is also restricted. So they deal with corruption of EU money, EU funding. So that's that's of course very important, but we have a lot of other corruption cases that are not involving especially EU funds. So that's why I'm coming now, or the commission, we are going to present next week, actually, a big anti-corruption package, because we think we need new tools when it comes to fighting corruption. Just to give us a few examples, the drugs, for example, cocaine is coming more and more cocaine into the European Union. We see now that they are coming mainly via ports, mainly via Antwerp. And we also found out that there's a lot of corruption in the ports. And almost all professionals, different kind of profession are corrupted. And we learned a lot from the Encrochat and Sky ECC cases here, when we can see how common it is to use corruption. And it's the same, of course, on the Latin American side. We have a lot of corruption cases there. We see a lot, actually, of corruption into also the law enforcement. And I think sometimes, I must say that I think that we have been a bit naive on how common this corruption is. And it's not only, sometimes it's small. It's just that one guard at the port will look another way once a year. Yeah? That could be how it starts. And other cases are more deeply involved in corruption. So I think this is an area there where we need to be much more aware of the threat from corruption, and to realize that corruption is here. And we need to fight that. And to do that, it's not only for law enforcement, it's for the whole society, actually.
You said that this proposal will come next week. What kind of tools would you say the EU can use to get into this area to fight corruption? Are you proposing new legislation, new EU legislation that will be binding in all EU countries, or what kind of tools are you thinking about? You can leave it for us here a week ahead of your press conference in Brussels.
I will propose a new directive, so there will be new legislation. And I think I will not tell you everything about it, but one important part is that all kinds of corruption need to be equally criminalized in all member states, because these organized criminal groups that use corruption are very often active in many member states at the same time. And if we have different, if one part of sort of corruption is criminalized in one country but not in another, that will really hamper the joint investigation and the joint police cooperation to go after these criminals that use the corruption. So it's harmonizing to facilitate easier police cooperation when it comes to revealing the corruption cases.
Interesting. Cristina, I mean, we know that fight against crime used to be in the heart of the national democracy, a national state, but it is increasingly being more and more supranational. And now Ylva Johansson will come with this new proposal, new directive, harmonized rules. Is this, in your view, a way the Union should develop more harmonized rules to fight crime in different areas?
Okay, the question is true. Organized crime always goes with corruption. So first, because either it comes from the money they get from the illegal products has to be put into the system, or because they need, normally this also goes with violence, because they don't have the way of solving their differences. They cannot go to a court, so they have to do among themselves using their own methods. So you get this violence and corruption because they need to go legal with, and they, so, but the corruption can be different. I mean, one is the corruption in the political or sector or police, and another one is in the economic sector. No, so it's very different, the measures. In Spain, we've been fighting with corruption. We had a lot of organized crime we have in Levante and in Andalusia. Of course, it was also related with corruption. And then it was many of them with the urbanism, no, with the building sector. And they went first to the city councils to get these permissions and pieces of land. And then, so what we did was organize like measures, for instance, like a stronger legislation in regarding the urbanism in order to control. We reinforce and create the anti-corruption public prosecutor, the office, and reinforce them more. Also the control and mechanisms to how that you are hired when you are in a political party and you want to get there. So try to get some more controls. And then, of course, now there is this possibility of taking out of a list of candidacies for elections because of supporting terrorism. Now they are the same, no, regarding trying to get through the list when you get this organized crime and corruption. But this is really, it's incredible. They are so used. Some of them have international, of course, all of them have international, because drugs, everything is a transborder crime, but it's really difficult to fight. I remember, I'm very old, so I've been dealing with this. I was remembered today that I was in 1992, I was having a lunch in Brussels with two Italian judges, Borsellino and Falcone, one Portuguese judge who is now retired, and then a public prosecutor from Spain retired, and the only one left is me, that is as an ambassador, nothing to do. So can you imagine this organized crime fight? But what I was trying to tell you is that it's really difficult to fight, and they are like, you put here and then there are somewhere. So we have to be flexible and to get means. No, we need money and material resources, the police and the judges.
And thank you. We will be eager to read your proposal next week, Ylva Johansson. But Johan, what more can be done to boost cooperation in the fight against crime? I mean, I listened to you and I've heard that one example that you are highlighting is stricter control on the external borders of the European Union, because of course our union movement should be free in principle. There should be no internal borders in principle. We know that there are, but in principle it shouldn't be. So you are asking for more stricter external control. So what are you asking for, Johan, and what could that change in the fight against organized crime?
Well, I don't know if we're asking for it in that sense, but one thing that is very important to combat crime is to be sure of individuals' identities. In Sweden, for example, for a long time, we had very good control over who was who, so to speak. We have had an increase, a large increase in the flow of people. That has many different aspects, many of them positive. But in terms of fighting crime, it's a huge challenge. So what we are looking for is a way to be sure of individuals' identities with biometrics. That will be a huge improvement of our ability to fight crime, and that of course has both a national and a EU dimension.
Ylva Johansson, what is your view on this proposal from Johan?
Yeah, Johan is absolutely right. So we need, and here we have the decisions already, the implementation is ongoing. So we have the different parts here. We have the passenger name record that is ongoing. I have a new proposal, advanced passenger information, which is the information when a person actually go on the plane, when they check in at the airport, to act with the identity who is really on the plane. We have, and that has to be accepted by the co-legislators. We have the Schengen information system. We've just gone live last month with a new version where we can insert more alerts, and it's important that everybody that enters into the EU is being checked towards the Schengen information system. We will soon have, hopefully this year, later this year, going live on the entry-exit system, which will make us actually the most modern border controls globally, I should say, where everybody has to be have the biometrics and when they go and enter into the Schengen area. We will also have a new ETIAS, which is those that travel visa-free, but also have a acceptance before they enter. It's like when we go to US visa-free, for example, we have the ESTA, where we have to ask for admission to come in. So with these systems, with the new Schengen information system, with the advanced passenger information, with the entry-exit system, and with the ETIAS, we will really have a totally new and modern way to protect our borders and to look into their identities. And this is extremely important. But this also goes with what we discussed earlier, the importance that we can also share these data with third countries so that we can receive information from third country who is traveling to us, and that when we of course also need to give this information to third countries. Otherwise we want to receive it for them because it has to be in both ways. So these are important aspects because that's how we can follow the patterns on how different individuals travel, for example, and the identity is extremely important, and that's why we are upgrading our system, and it's important that all member states also implement it in the right way.
Ylva Johansson, I know that you have to leave in 5 minutes time, so I encourage you here, the audience, if you have questions, and we have one question online. Emily, please.
Sorry. This is a question to Ylva Johansson from Elisabeth Nilsson. If we have a union without borders, do we then not also need to have law enforcement without borders? Thank you. And maybe it's to all of you in the panel. Sorry.
I should say no, because even if we can travel without borders, we still have national competencies and we have EU competencies. And I think this is important. So there are a lot of crimes that don't have any EU component, that is totally national, but the EU component is being more and more important, especially the online. And that means why we need an increasing cooperation on law enforcement. But I'm not convinced that a federal European police will be the right solution, actually. Strengthening Europol, strengthening the police cooperation, and the exchange of information and the capabilities to support joint investigations, I think is the right way to go.
What is your view on that question, Johan and Cristina? And European FBI, is that needed or not, Johan?
I'm in agreement with the commissioner, and I think also on a national level, we have a very close or strong local presence, regional or national. It's not possible to fight crime efficiently by having one level at the top taking responsible for everything. And we see a lot of connections in Europe when it comes to crime, but many times it involves only 2 countries or 3 or 4. So I don't think that solution is good, but we need to share the information. And I think, as the commission said, that is what is doing now, and that is the way forward in the future as well.
Cristina, what is your view?
Yes, this is personal view because I don't know my government what is thinking, but I think it's absolutely, I mean, your position. We need to have good mechanisms of judiciary and police cooperation. Yes, absolutely.
But for, say, a weaker, a smaller European country where police enforcement is not very strong, couldn't a joint force be of some use for some fight against the organized crime, Cristina?
I think what they have to do is to have a stronger police, and maybe they devoted more means to the police, their national police. But I don't think that to have a federal police would help them to, I don't know, there are many mechanisms of cooperation that can be done, not necessary to have a super body on top, but that's, even if you are a small country, you can get some agreements between with another countries that are surrounded you and can help you in the organized crime. Yes, there are many ways of cooperation. There is this idea, no, the recognition, no, the mutual recognitions of procedure, and this is very an important principle in the European Union. So this has been the base of very important instruments, as you know, the European arrest warrant, the European investigation order, they are so much, so they have so much importance in the fight. You cannot imagine what we have got with this. It's absolutely incredible that you can issue an order as a judge to another judge and you can have it effective in the territory. That has been absolutely, I mean, I don't know who thought this at the beginning, but was a brilliant mind.
Okay. Ylva Johansson, before leaving, you have a final message to the audience and us in Stockholm.
I think what we discuss now is police work is a different part. I mean, it's really important with the community police, the local police that can be close to citizens. And that's why I think it's important with what is debate going on nationally on how to recruit police men and women representing the whole society. But then you have other parts that is really cross-border that need specific competence, specific expertise, access to the processing of big data, for example. And there really we can do much more on the European level. I think it's important to realize how big part of the problems we see in the streets of Sweden, for example, with the shootings, with the drugs, how much of this is related also to other EU countries and also to countries outside the European Union. So that's why we need to fight both locally, nationally, and on the European level, and also on the global level. And we need to connect all these dots to be really efficient when it comes to the crimes, the organized crime. And I saw there was a question here also in the chat on the confiscation and freezing of assets. And this is really important because it's extremely profitable. And they do this for money. So that's why I have made proposals for a new, sharper regulation and quicker possibilities for both freezing and confiscation. Also, when it comes to so-called unexplained wealth, where actually they have to explain where the money comes from. Otherwise, it's also possible to confiscate that. So I hope that the co-legislator will agree on this. So to fight organized crime, we need to do, it's a whole of society approach. As I said, it's corruption, it's confiscation, it's prevention, it's the sharing of information, of course, the power and the possibilities for law enforcement and international cooperation.
Ylva Johansson, thank you so much for sharing with us your thoughts on this very important topic. And we understand that you are busy and that you have other engagement, but thank you so much. And we are happy that Johan and Cristina will stay with us for another 30 minutes. And now we will focus on the bilateral cooperation between Sweden and Spain in the fight against crime. Johan, we know that there are quite a deep cooperation at the moment. Can you describe what is happening between Sweden and Spain from your perspective?
Yes, I would like to start with saying that this is a quite well important and also a way of describing organized criminal groups. What we have had in Sweden for a long time is very high levels of violence in criminal gangs. We have the most deadly shootings per capita. So we have very violent groups in Sweden. What happened was that some of them started to look at Spain, both in terms of in a sense, getting away from the violence from other groups, but also as a way of integrating in the narcotics market, which is very important to them. And quite rapidly, Spain then ended up with a large problem because they took their very violent tactics with them. So we started to work with this together with Spain. And this was a very important bilateral cooperation, but it was also enhanced by Europol in the sense that they create the platform. Only in this sense, two countries meet, but the platform we communicate and share information is provided by Europol. And that led to a very intense and successful cooperation, leading to a lot of arrests and seizures of money and drugs. And what happened in the later phase is also interesting, because then we expanded this cooperation to other agencies like the customs. And we also expanded it further to more of the Nordic countries, which is also interesting from the Europol perspective, that they provide also a platform for us to expand a very well functioning cooperation. But it's important to say, and I think this speaks to the question of having a federal police. This wasn't a federal police, it was two police forces joining together using Europol as a platform. It was not an issue for the whole of the European Union, it was an issue for 2 member states. I think that is a practical. And what we see, of course, is these quite quick changes in behavior in different groups, and they move very quickly between different territories. And now, of course, the fight still goes on, but we see that this cooperation has had and is continued to having a big effect. And of course, then they change again. So some of them move further out, further from Europe. And for us, it's clear that it's very good that they move, because that means that they can't be in the spot that they prefer, where they want to be. So there is something gained in that. But it's also quite clear that it is easier for us to cooperate within the European Union. We have, as mentioned before, the arrest warrants and many different things that makes that, I would say, much more like fighting crime within our national borders than if we go outside the EU. That's the big leap.
So next step will be to boost international cooperation. If the criminals are ahead of you and moving outside the Union, then what should you do?
Well, in one sense, they're not only, I wouldn't say they're ahead of us. It's as I said, they prefer to be somewhere. And for us to deny them that possibility is important in itself. So there is also something to be gained from making them having to move to another place. That wasn't their preferred spot. But of course, we have to continue to fight these groups. And then again, I would say that the European level and Europol is important. They provide a much stronger basis for us to speak with other countries than we could do, especially as a small country in the European Union. Europol is also where we go to meet other law enforcement agencies. Of course, we have Interpol. Sweden is a founding member of that, and it's a very important organization. But Europol is also an increasing important organization in terms of reaching the world. If you go down to Europol, you see not only European countries, but a strong presence from many other countries.
Cristina, what is your view? This enhanced police cooperation between Sweden and Spain, has it gone well? What could be done better in your view? Has it been effective?
Yes, I think if you see the data, what they reflect is that there has been a clear decrease on crimes level and number of crimes. So it's really has been very important. From a Spanish point of view, the presence of the Swedish criminals are not so enormous or something. The percentage regarding the rest of the criminals is very low, even 0.3% or something, really, really low. But it's true that for Sweden and for our Levante and all these regions, it's very important. So, and the crimes, as Johan said, it's drug trafficking, has been mainly drug trafficking, cocaine, hashish, and marijuana. No? And then there were some also money laundering. And there has been also these order murders, no, professional sicarios, we call them. So even the size was not huge regarding the rest of the foreign crimes in Spain, it was from a quality point of view were very important because they were really gangs, violence. So, and the cooperation has been very good. We would love to have maybe more permanent presence. You were thinking of that? So we would love
because it's not today, it's not permanent.
Yes,
presence.
it is. There is, I mean, it's regarding a particular operation. So then you have the presence. And there is this Nordic office where all of them, but maybe we got think. And what I would love in general, not only regarding Sweden, but my experience, I've been sharing the organized crime technical group with Morocco, with France, with Algeria, with Mexico, and Italy. So many years ago, of course. But what is important to have this, you take a seat with the persons that are working directly with these matters, with police officers, public prosecutors, judges, and then you see all the operations you've been dealing with, and you see where the problems have been, and you do a kind of general strategy for the vision once a year, something like this. But I think it's very important because then you see what tools do you need, if this legal framework that the commission or whoever is preparing is good or not, if you need something else. So I think this vision that, of course, if you are dealing with operational things, it's difficult to have because you are going to solve this murder or this operation or this. But I think it's important from time to time to have to. So I would love to have this conversation with the Swedish side.
That's a good offer.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's a very important point. We started out cooperating. I think it was very good cooperation in the sense, as pointed out, that the Swedish market in terms of narcotics is, of course, quite small. So it wasn't, in that sense, a large issue. But we have this violence. We want to make sure that it doesn't spread to other countries. We start to focus on quite operational tasks. But we also then, as we work closer with our colleagues, learn more about the larger market and how it works. I think for us, that is also a very important advantage of these corporations, that we learn more and more about, in a sense, the next level. We are not the entry port to a large extent, but it comes in other differences. It creates other problems, not least because where you have, in a sense, the really large money, you have an even larger problem where we have corruption. What will be our next problem? Right now, there's a lot of focus on violence, but we also know that corruption is really the most efficient way for these groups to work. How will our groups develop as things develop further on?
But when police from Spain and Sweden work closely together, you must also have met difficulties, since police are a part of, I mean, we have different legal systems in Spain and Sweden. We have different cultures when it comes to police operations. Can you describe any of your experiences that could lead to changes, Johan? Has it been easy? Couldn't be.
Well, I would say that let's start with the maybe most important aspect, the cultural aspects. It's very similar. Police,
similar.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Police officers and also prosecutors, my experience, they do the same job.
Really?
Yes. So when they meet up, they tell the same stories, they have the same challenges. So I think at that level, it's always quite easy.
Mm-hmm.
Then it comes to the legal framework, which could be more difficult. But then the European Union has come a long way. To try to have someone extradited from Spain is much more like having someone move from the south of Sweden to Stockholm than trying to do it with the country further out. So the European level has really smoothened this.
Mm-hmm.
And also in terms of sharing the information, that is also quite efficient these days. What also is needed is the trust for us to be really quick. When a colleague from Spain gives a call and says, well, this person will land in Sweden, he's very important to us, we want to put surveillance on him. These are the things that is usually difficult if you don't work very closely and have that trust developed. And that is very important because that's another priority entering your system. You have a lot of things to do. You don't necessarily want to put a surveillance team at the airport right now, but if you know and you work with your colleagues, that's extremely important, then you will do that. And when things like that start to happen extremely quickly, they can leave at the airport, and before they land, we will have a surveillance team. That extra efficiency is added, and that takes that close cooperation.
Interesting. So without harmonized rules, there is some sort of adaptation to each other. Cristina, is that your view also?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the harmonization of rules is difficult. We tried when we tried to organize in 2008 in European Union this European record of crimes, no, for recidivation. And then it was so for criminal records of the, and it was so difficult when you, for instance, for us, for Spain, when the drug trafficking, you call them crimes against public health. And we were talking with the Germans, and for the Germans, the public health crimes were, I don't know, something regarding vaccines or antibiotics. So it was really difficult to try to organize these schemes with the equivalencies of crimes. So this is difficult. So the only solution is what they decided, and it's a good solution, this mutual recognition and the trust. And this is more because really try to go into details and compare is difficult. But if you get this trust and the trust, you build it. You build through training, to exchange, being together, working together, sharing views. That's how you build the trust. That's important.
We have a question from our digital audience. Emily, please.
Thank you, Annika. Yes, we have a very active audience online, so thank you. And we have another question from Monica at CIEPS that Ylva Johansson was referring to before she left. So here is the question. As organized crimes is based on profit maximization, what are the best ways to reduce their profits? Can economic tools be used to reduce profits? And do you have any examples of this? Thank you.
Yes, what should be done so that crime doesn't pay? Johan, do you have any proposals or ideas?
Yes, I think there are two things that need to be done, which the Commissioner also spoke about. One is not maybe spoken of enough. That is to go, what we say, before the money, to prevent different prevent certain crime from happening. And there is a lot of the scale is such that in order to have a big effect on this problem, you need to put your emphasis there. The other one is, of course, to recover profits that has already been made. And I think both of them are equally important. There's been some EU legislation that's been quite positive. But this also has a lot to do with the digital arena. There is a lot of deregulation and also digitalization that has made some financial crimes a lot easier. So there's a lot to do both to prevent and go after the profits that have already been recovered.
Thank you, Cristina. I'll give the floor to you in just a second, but we have a question from the audience here at Jakobsbergsgatan, and you will have a microphone will be handed over to you. And please introduce yourself before you ask your question.
Henrik Tam, Stockholm University. There is something strange about this presentation of organized crime from the two Swedish participants. On the one hand, it's increasing, it's becoming increasingly severe. On the other hand, Europol is becoming better and better, and we get more and more resources. Why don't we have any effects? It's very similar to the Swedish situation, where we have had a historically unique increase in penal law and police powers. And when there is an increase in gang-related murders, it's just that we have to have more of the same. And I don't think this is a solution. Of course, the police is important, but if you look to other countries outside Europe, and if you look to Sweden historically and to other countries historically, there are very few cases, I would guess, where it is a police solution to organized crime. And if we don't expand the debate to which actually the last question did, and I think you started the important debates there, that you really look into the existence or lack of existence of institutions, of economic incentives, of social reasons for this situation. We can continue forever like this, and you can always say it could have been worse without more police. I don't think that it is basically organized crime is a police or league or penal law legislation. This was not a question, it was more a statement. I think we have to buy the debate very, very much and look at this in a very different way.
Yeah, thank you for your intervention. Johan, do you have any comment to that?
I find myself very much in agreement with that. There is a big problem when we talk about organized crime and make it a question of police authority and efficiency. It's a very important debate to be had. But if you look at the development of organized crime in Sweden and Europe, it's clear that there are other dimensions that needs to be discussed for this gap to be breached. So absolutely. We many times from the police want to see more from there are many areas of the civil society and social sectors and the municipals and so forth. So very, very much in agreement.
Cristina.
Okay, this is a very interesting discussion and long. So, but because when you think of organized crime, first you have to think what is being the object of the crime. Of course, the illegal item, if it's where it's produced, how it comes to the country, I mean, it's how it goes through ports, whatever, who is the distributor, and why these people are distributing this, why, and this is we begin the social. Who are the buyers? Because of course we are talking about drugs, but why is all the drug here or in Europe? Because we have the buyers here. So if we don't tackle that, forget. We have to tackle the whole, and where the money goes, the money you get from this illegal trafficking, where it goes and how you say it. But of course, there is, I think the importance, the police is very, very important, because you don't only need to give them more powers, you have to give them more effectives, because I tell you, if you don't have police officers, in Spain, for instance, the other day we had this murder of one religious, one Catholic priest who was murdered in 2 minutes. When the murderer went out of the church, he had 2 police officers who took him, and in 2 more minutes, of national police took him. And of course, it was a failure because he was a person who had been with treatment, psychiatric treatment. So there were some failures, but of course you need police officers, and not only police officers, you need that the police be effective and the judiciary is effective and there is no impunity for those guilty. But of course, regarding this organized crime in general, if you think of this particular case here of young people dealing with drugs and gangs and violence, this is, of course, I absolutely agree. You need places where go and do sports, integration in society. And I think that Sweden, as far as I know, is one of the countries, is one of the best examples of the best integration of minorities and immigrations that I've been in my life. I've never seen, as here, people from different countries being, I don't know, Secretary of State, lawyers, doctors. So this country knows how to do it because they've done before. The only thing you have to do is repeat it, I think.
Cristina, that's interesting. That's not often said in our country, in it.
I've never seen this in other countries. No way.
But of course, all the other dimensions that affects organized crime is perhaps difficult for the EU to fight against. I mean, the integration, all other parts, what can the EU do, Cristina?
Okay, in my opinion, they can do a lot. They can finance. You know, when I was again in Brussels and these years, we had this line for justice, criminal, whatever, but was for governments. And we were very happy receiving that money. And then somebody I'm not going to tell what country. They say, no, we want also to introduce the private sector, and they can also go to this money. And then, so they have plenty of tools that can be used to finance this, and they finance a lot. So it's a question of focus and giving the not only academia, I mean, okay, the question is that academia is very well. They do a lot of interesting things as these seminars and many other projects, but we really need the money in those who are working on the floor, on reality. This I think is very important.
Interesting. So if we are starting to conclude this seminar, I would like you to sort of summarize the cooperation, bilateral cooperation between Sweden and Spain. You both value this cooperation very highly, and Cristina, you tell what you gain with training, cooperation. It's an added value to both countries. So I would like you to look ahead. Isn't this a path to develop with the different countries in the European? Couldn't more be done in this area, Johan?
I think, as we said before, that we need to be where the problem is. When we have a huge problem to deal commonly with Spain, then we work very close with Spain. But the problem will shift. There is not a all of Europe solution. Although these crime groups are active in many countries, very few of them are active in 27 of ours. So I think that's important, but it's also important, of course, to build on these, as we said before, quite successful operations. Of course, we build a closer cooperation, trust and understanding from everything of how does it work in Spain, what are the different agencies doing. We build personal relationships, which will help us more on the strategic level. So at every intense cooperation on the operational level, we need to take care of that in the future as well. But I think we will need this flexibility, which Europe will also provide, to have very strong bilateral or trilateral cooperations.
Interesting. Are there some ongoing new countries that you are cooperating with? Some new projects?
I would say right now there are many things going on, but right now the development is that we have been successful in Europe. So some other criminal actors then need to move elsewhere, and we will pursue them elsewhere.
And Cristina, it seems like you share the view of Johan, that this cooperation should be flexible, adapted to the situation, etc. Why is that?
I think it's very important to be this resilience, no, that now is everywhere. But yes, and I in Spain now we're taking the presidency, and I was also during my time in the Ministry of Justice, we have in fact there is this network that is called Iberred, and is with public prosecutors and police officers with all Latin American countries. So we have a central point there. And when I was there, we did 2 big operations against child abuse, pornography through internet. And it was very incredible because we were completely silent. So because the operation had to be begin at the same day, the same minute. So in order not to have, and it was incredible in 24 countries. It was very good. So these kinds of tools, of course, we can also offer to our European colleagues, and it's very important with Latin America.
One last short question. I mean, in connection to the question from our audience, when will we see result from this? I mean, Ylva Johansson said the organized crime, they are professionals, they are multinational, they are ahead of us all the time. When will we see result of this work, Johan?
It depends on what level you talk about. We see results every day in terms of people arrested, money seized, and so forth. But for it to turn, for the problem overall to decrease, I don't think this is an exact science, but my strong belief is we will see that when we have a broader approach, which is as strong in terms of other sectors as law enforcement.
Cristina, short last word from you. Are you optimistic or?
In general, yes. I mean, other countries, for instance, in Spain, we have the index of criminality is it's much lower. So if a country as Spain can have a much lower index than Sweden, of course, Sweden can do it. The question is to see where to put the effort and what the police and the judiciary need to really to be more effective. But I think they are in good path, and let's hope that the figures they will decrease, because they are doing a lot, but they need support from economic and human resources and everything.
Thank you so much, both. You have really deepened our understanding of this urgent problem in Europe. And thank you all for listening. I will now thank you with an applause. And I will then leave the floor to Ilinka, please.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to thank our speakers again on behalf of SNS, and of course our moderator as well, and you in the audience for your participation both here and online. And before I let you go, I would like to turn to Swedish för att tipsa om två saker. Dels så har vi ett seminarium den 9 maj på ett av de temana som Ylva Johansson underströk, nämligen teknologiutvecklingen och inte minst AI-utvecklingen, om med anledning av de här nya väldigt publika framstegen inom AI, så gör vi ett seminarium om det, både om risker och möjligheter, så varmt välkomna tillbaka då. Och sen så som jag brukar göra så vill jag också slå ett slag för vår utbildning, samhällsprogrammet, som är en unik fördjupningsresa över 8 dagar som börjar med den lokala nivån i Sverige till den regionala, till den nationella, och sen så är det sista passet på 4 dagar i Bryssel där man får en crash EU-governance, bland annat med Ylva Johansson som en av talarna. Så att varmt välkomna att läsa på mer om det eller prata med mig eller någon av mina kollegor om samhällsprogrammet, och förstås också varmt välkomna tillbaka till SNS. Tack!